Yes, our children, drink deep and feel the searing embrace of the first one. Now it is time for you to acquire what you came for.
The burning in your veins is but a moment of discomfort in your transition to the great beyond. Now we welcome you to your eternity. Drink deeply, have faith, and join us in this sermon.
Welcome back to Koolaid Stand. I'm Will Benson.
And I'm Wynn.
And I'm Steven.
And I'm Jett.
And did you know that July is Disability Pride Month? It seems even some friends of mine who could enjoy the representation of this don't even know that. I feel like we get a lot of talk about gay pride in June. I refuse to acknowledge the removal of that title of the month of June, and to honor it, I've collected 4 non-straight people into one recording session taking place in June, or also like Black History in February. But I don't feel like people really talk about disability pride. You don't often hear disabled people come up in conversations about policy, despite the grouping covering such a wide range of people. Depending which governing body you ask for like surveying this information, between 13 and 29% of the U.S. population is disabled. And unlike orientation or identity or nationality, any able-bodied person can join this demographic at like literally any time.
That is a very wide range of percentage of the population.
I think the reason that's different is it's people define these bodies define disability in a different way. Also, a lot of people like might not be eager to admit this. I feel like a lot of people who are disabled right now, especially like I think type 2 diabetics is a really good example because you could be type 2 diabetic at our age, but it's more common the older you get. And like my dad's type 2 diabetic and literally will not call himself disabled.
Oh, yeah. So this is like the issue of people being like, why are there more gay people now? What's going on? And it's like, well, yeah, they can say they're gay in a survey without getting killed.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone's killing anyone for being diabetic. But
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also the system probably wants to kill you for being diabetic, but
yeah.
But I want people to think about that for a second, like actually really consider it. Any day you could get hit by a bus, or your pancreas could just give out on you. You could lose track of your hand near a table saw or a lathe. You could fall off a longboard and blow your leg up.
True.
Or you could get like radioactive goo splashed in your eyes or something. There are just so many ways at any one moment that you could join this group of people. Our bodies are so fragile and complex. So you'd think that when it comes to public policy, that a more prominent portion of the conversation would include discussion about how to take care of almost a third of your constituents. But of course, as American history goes, many people who you'd think incapable of such action by the nature of their condition had to fight harder than you'd ever want to think, and sacrificed even more of themselves than they had already, and not only be seen as equal people with equal voices, but also just be treated that way. And I think part of this that kind of spoke to me recently is I think everyone knows the mayor of New York right now is Zohran Mamdani, big liberal W running a Commonwealth caliphate out of New York or whatever people are accusing him of. I don't believe that. But like, I think he had a discussion with, I feel so bad because I don't know who this person is, but this individual seems to speak for disabled people. And he had a meeting with this person, and he was like, hey, so you talk about the Jews and the Islamic people in New York and the Italian people. Like, why aren't you saying disabled people? Like, why won't you say that? And Mamdani handles it very well. And he's like, well, I think when I talk about these demographics, disabled people, I mean with my heart to include them, but I haven't specifically outright said that, and I can do better. And like, that is how you be a fucking mayor. And also, like, I think it just kind of lends to my point here, which is like we talk about homosexuals and racially different people, and like when we think about diversity, we think about these things, and disability isn't directly addressed. a lot of time, especially like in like education books from the early 2000s, there was kind of like post ADA, there was this big push to like put people in wheelchairs in like kids media and stuff. And it's like, yeah, I guess, but it always felt like a tokenization to me. I don't know. Like there's more disabilities than that, than just being in a wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. When does that?
But I think in instance of like specifically visible disabilities being used for the purpose of bringing attention to disabled people, it's kind of the easiest way to do it, because if you have someone who is visibly disabled and they can be used in a, even if it is a tokenish way, it's still representation in media that shows that like there are people out there that look like you. If you use a wheelchair, if you use crutches, if you use some sort of mobility aid, a hearing aid, anything like that, something that's a nod to, yes, this person is dealing with an issue that you, the viewer, might also be dealing with. So I think it's important that it's seen a lot more, and I'm glad that it started to become more of a thing in the, like, you know, probably 90s and 2000s. Like, I can remember specific instances from my childhood of seeing disabled representation in media and having it not really like click with me, because as a child I wasn't disabled to a certain point, and not in a very visibly disabled way. But I don't know, that's an interesting like discussion to be had about tokenization and like kind of using people's visual things that are wrong with them to talk about that stuff.
When?
I always appreciate the chance to see wheelchairs, service dogs, mobility aids in media. Obviously, I'm sure throughout the discussion we're going to get to, like, everything we've done falls short of what we could be doing. But seeing it at all matters, and it is an easier shorthand. Being able to draw somebody that uses a wheelchair is easier than trying to go through the very complex discussion of how to faithfully
like, this
adapt.
Person has diabetes.
Yeah, and like that's
Sure,
even can be done with the sensors, but like it's harder to faithfully represent invisible disabilities without touching on probably some tropes and some stereotypes that would be uncomfortable.
I think one thing that this does bring up to me is I don't know how to say his last name, but RJ Might or Meat played Heisenberg's son in Breaking Bad. He actually has cerebral palsy, and that character has cerebral palsy. Like that's actual, like that. I don't know. That just feels more real to me. But at the same time, I'm not I don't fit these kinds of disability demographics. Like I don't know. I'm more proud of that when it comes to media production, to see people like that, like in media. Or I can't remember her name, but she has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. She's in The Good Place.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, but I cannot remember her name to save my life.
And that's, I mean, she just has that. I mean, it's not obvious, but she does. And I think that's cool too. I think it's no secret that accessibility and disability representation are cornerstone issues that I value. I've spent probably hours of this show screaming from my soapbox about the importance of supporting people with all forms of disability. I consider myself an almost violent ally, as well as a member of this demographic in a less visible way that, unlike my two amazing friends who are here with us today, I just do not have the strength to discuss in a public forum like this yet. So I wanted to take an opportunity today to not only honor the nameless heroes who literally crawled so we could walk, but talk a little bit about why we still yet cannot run, and give some space so you could meet two people who want to tell you a little bit about what their lives are like and how the systems we have in place affect them, both good and bad, and where we need to go from here, and how we as more able people need to help them push. And I do not mean grabbing their wheelchair. It is well known that for my research segments, I have an issue with going back and back and back into history. So I'm not starting with cavemen this time. I'm just going to pick a point to start here. And that point is going to be 1918, Right after the First World War ended, it's no surprise that the most gruesome war we had ever experienced produced an absurd number of casualties in our returning veterans. So Congress passed the Smith-Sears Veteran Rehabilitation Act. The issue to solve was these veterans were coming home with amputations, shell shock.
Oh, yeah, shell shock.
Which is what we called PTSD at the time, and major mobility issues that made them and like also considerable disfigurations. These issues made them unable to continue their service, but also unable to work in a competitive job market. And as we know, in the upcoming 1920s, the job market was fucking rough. So this act would be the first of a few motions by the government to establish what is known as vocational rehabilitation, or VR. And this was essentially a program to help disabled veterans work around their disabilities in a way that would make them as effective at jobs which fit their current capabilities as a common man. The Smith-Sears Veteran Rehabilitation Act would be further updated by the Smith-Fees Civilian Vocational Rehabilitation Act in 1920, which was just a bit of a revamp, honestly. These acts are really difficult to research, so all I really know is that these services were exclusive to disabled veterans and emphasized competitive job market integration. They also were short programs. The idea being once the veteran was placed, they'd stop support, as that meant the veteran was ready to reintegrate into society on their own. Being more focused on the competitive job market left a lot of deficiencies in these programs to help them mentally prepare for reintegration to civilian life. As far as veteran nature goes, I spoke to a group of veterans, recently, and they expressed that these programs are much more robust now than they even used to be, and that's good. I'm glad to hear that, because I know it's really difficult. I've been talking for a second, so to give room to disabled voices, I want to ask Wynn and Will if they've been able to receive support from either the Smith-Sears or the Smith-Fees Act. Wynn?
No, I have not received any help, like you mentioned. They were short run. I have received some vocational support right around when I first got diagnosed with my disabilities, but it definitely wasn't a program for veterans.
Will?
Yeah, I can't say that I have benefited from any vocational veteran programs in this country.
As we can see, very important acts. And for 53 years, those were the only two major governmental doctrines that any form of disabled people regularly had. Some executive orders happened enforcing affirmative action through employers for disabled individuals, but AA is a whole can of worms. Just don't let me get started.
Don't get him started.
don't get me started. Well, these weren't exactly the only doctrines impacting disabled people. These were the only two positive impacting doctrines. From 1860s through 1974, like 50 years ago, localized ordinances were frequently passed in cities like San Francisco, Chicago, and even the self-proclaimed capital of weird Portland, you're not getting out of this, which were originally just called unsightly beggar ordinances, but will later be called ugly laws.
Crazy shit, truly.
I found the law imposed in Chicago in 1881 to be one of the most heinously worded. Allow me. Any person who is diseased, maimed, mutilated, or in any way deformed so as to be an unsightly or disgusting object, or an improper person to be allowed in or on the streets, highways, thoroughfares, or public places in the city, shall not therein or thereon expose himself or herself to public view, under the penalty of a fine of $1 for each offense, which was roughly $33 back then.
Yeesh.
Can't believe you just said that live and believe what you just said and are like endorsing all of that.
Don't clip that.
That's
Time to
crazy.
cancel Steven.
No, I've said worse shit on the show.
I believe
These laws wouldn't be lifted until the mid-70s, with Chicago's, the one I just listed, remaining until 1974, so one of the longest holdouts.
Goddamn.
The goal around these is fucked up no matter what. But at the end of the day, like, there wasn't much that you could do if you became blind or were born blind or were deaf or blind deaf, than to stand on the street and panhandle. Like, there weren't programs that delivered support to these people. So I can imagine that, yeah, maybe it's a little frustrating. You have all these people begging for money on the corners, but also, like, do something about it.
Right.
We still have this fucking response today where it's like, there's so many homeless people in Seattle. Take them and put them somewhere else. No. Help them. What else do you want me to say? Like, it's fucked up. And I think the wording here is so fucked up because of the time, but also at the time, that's how they viewed these humans, as unsightly, disgusting objects.
Well, and I mean, you could compare that directly to how we do treat homeless folks currently in this country, and especially like current legislation that's been passed specifically to outlaw people camping outside, like within city ordinances. There's a ton of legislation that's been passed across this country within the last 10, 15, 20 years that specifically outlaws like people existing outside in any sort of semi-permanent fashion, just so they can, round up the unsightly once again.
And
I will say, go ahead.
Oh, I just want to point out too, like, our wording may have shifted, but the overlap between, again, disabled folk that were targeted back in these ugly laws and the disabled folk today, we've just changed our wording. It's not any different, and it's not any better.
Yeah. I think one thing that is interesting is back then what would happen is these laws would then get you locked up if you couldn't pay. And then from there you would stay in holding until they could take you to what was called a poorhouse, which is kind of fucked up, but also like somehow better than what we have right now.
Than being funneled into the prison industrial complex to become slave labor, essentially. Like,
yes. And don't get me started. But they did have like centralized locations funded by the state to take care of people while they were waiting to find vocation or become housed. And I just think that dichotomy is interesting, for having laws like this, but also still like managing to have some kind of support system at all is just not anticipated, I think.
No.
In 1973, though, the Rehabilitation Act was passed, which had a few sections to it ultimately designed to rework the pre-existing vocational rehabilitation programs. But the more important one is one a more modern disabled person may recognize, which is Section 504. This extended civil liberties that were originally reserved for veterans to all civilians with disabilities, but notably preferential treatment to those with the most like classified severe ones via a form of affirmative action, but is entirely limited to government support services. So the only way you could experience the benefits of Section 504 is if you were working with something funded by the government. That last bit is really important in my opinion, because these programs, while they became significantly more accessible, they also became subjectively exclusive and were only available if you were interacting with something that received government funding, like in any way. This did help out considerably in a roundabout way, like public libraries, building ramps, or public schools having extra classes for developmentally or physically disabled students. But some disabilities were most certainly considered not disabling enough to guarantee access to these programs, even if interacting with government-funded situations. A step in the right direction. Also, we started to talk about like developmental disabilities around this time too. So that conversation kind of like started to kick up. And while Section 504 of the Rehab Act was a big moment, personally, I think the Comprehensive Services and Disability Amendments Act of 1978 was a bit of a bigger victory that seems more recognizable as what we know today and established some groundwork that would be used for the modern systems and support that we have now. This act was the major shift in focus for the government that moved this narrative of reemployment and vocational services to societal reintegration, disability representation, and support for independent living. This is where it became less about, let's get you a job so you can fend for yourself, to, hey, let's learn what you need and try to help you get that so you can live a more normal and independent life if that's feasible for your circumstances. From this act, we got things like the interpreter program for the deaf and blind deaf, more outwardly direct representation for the developmentally disabled, removed upper and lower age caps. So there used to be like, basically you had to be like this between these ages to experience the benefits of these programs. So this amendment like removed that. Lifelong support was provided now depending on the disability, and two whole governing components specifically for disability representation and research were formed. That's the National Council of the Handicapped, which would then eventually become the National Council of Disability. Handicapped isn't really a term that we use anymore. An advisory council for the government to help in decisions representing disabled Americans. So just all they do is look at the issues on the wall and they bring that to the government and say, hey, we need to think about these people. And they also formed the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research. Yes, that's called NIDLR.
I feel like I shouldn't say that.
I think it sounds kind of fun, but this is a government-funded research center dedicated to understanding and helping Americans with disabilities. Wynn and Will, did I miss anything that you were aware of?
No, you're pretty on it for me.
Yeah, we're getting to the stuff that I know better later on.
Well, and actually, I can speak specifically to the 504 because that's something that I have benefited from in my life since I was 10, 11 years old. And I mean, I'm just assuming that it's the same thing because it was called a 504 plan when I was in school. But yeah, I went to public schools my whole life. And I started struggling with the digestive issues that I have when I was about 10 years old. And they became so severe past age 10 that I started to miss a lot of class in elementary school and then middle school. And it was really affecting my grades because I was missing mostly morning classes because I was so sick in the mornings. But I was able to get a 504 plan of some kind where I met with like the principal and the guidance counselor and my mom, and we all sat down and like laid out that I will miss class and I just will, like it's just going to happen. But having access to that 504 plan as I understood it as a kid, it basically gave me extra opportunity to make up the time that I would miss otherwise. And so I wouldn't get, terrible grades just for missing class because I was too sick to show up to class. So I've been benefiting from that for my entire education post 10 years old. Yeah.
That's excellent. I didn't know that those programs honestly still were around through that doctrine specifically. And
yeah.
I mean, that's great. I'm assuming that was a huge thing for you just to have access to.
It was major because I mean, for the first year or so, I just was getting horrible grades and feeling really horrible about the fact that I was failing my classes just because I was too sick to show up and participate. No, it was really I really couldn't have done school without that. So yeah, majorly benefited me and allowed me to have a decent education and get good grades and pass and not be, left in the dust, so to speak.
No, that's excellent. Mm-hmm. Wynn, did you receive anything like this?
I did. I had a 504 plan through high school. Similar, some absences. It allowed me to have my service dog. And it also covers if you need to go into a courthouse or any government civil service that you're able to have accommodations, namely my service dog, through that time in those spaces.
That's awesome. Yeah, I figured that the ADA was covering allowing service dogs and access to locations. But is it if they don't have it, they need to figure out how to get you in there?
It's more so the ADA covers public places and employment, whereas the 504 covers government entities. So courthouses, like you said, libraries, school districts, all of that is not necessarily ADA covered.
Okay, I always figured that a courthouse, since it was a publicly accessible location, needed to be accessible, but it does make sense that they must be retrofitted or provide services now. Because if I have a public building and it's not accessible, I don't have to change it. Except bear some circumstances. But yeah, okay. That makes sense how that coverage works. I mean, I think so. Yeah, it's clearly still important. I think we're getting closer to the stuff that people know now. But no, obviously this was a pretty large step. I do think that the amendment after the fact was considerably like pushing us in the right direction further. But it's great to know that Section 504, as it was, did significantly aid things along. Ultimately, in 1986, the NCD would begin recommending a specific Americans with Disabilities Act to help bridge even more of those gaps for disabled Americans. Ultimately, they would be the first to draft that bill. The bill hit the floor in 1988 and would receive a considerable bipartisan support. I mean, what God-fearing Christians would oppose a bill that protected the sick and the vulnerable?
Yes. What?
I don't know if you can hear my voice too obviously. I'm smiling. I'll tell you precisely what God-fearing Christians would do such a thing.
So many of them.
So many of them. Business owners and evangelicals. Our usual suspects, if you will. I'm going to say the reasons for business owners is always the same obvious nonsense. It's crying about the increased expenses provided by providing accommodations to the disabled would include something, I'll mind you, is still bitched about today in some circles that Jett and I interact with. And some of the most sickening, slimy, disgusting people who should be shot. Jett, do you have any additional context for that?
No, I agree.
These people are evil.
I agree that they should probably get shot. They're just obsessed with making number go up, right? And
yeah,
they find themselves in a situation where a disabled person makes it harder for them to make number go up, and that's the most important thing to them for some reason.
I think something that's interesting is most of the people that I've met who are like this, they've still never really had to do any of the extreme nonsense that they catastrophize about.
Oh no, never.
I've never in my functional experience ever seen anything like they say that you could be made to do happen.
Yeah, I mean they're being really alarmist about it all the time because, like I just said, profit is like their main thing, and anything that they feel is going to mess with that, regardless of what's happening on the other side of the issue, is something that they're going to try and sell you as a catastrophe.
Yeah, I mean, like without trying to get too much into specifically what we're talking about, but yeah, like it's there are people out there lurking among us who should die. Anyway, the most interesting of these two, I think, is evangelicals. The Bible specifically and outright states that Christians are called to offer specific and dedicated care to the sick, the poor, and the lame. If you will, called to be the saviors of the broken, the beaten, and the damned. That's going to slide right past everybody.
No, I giggled.
Oh, okay.
I caught it.
So what's the rub? Well, a specific chronic illness was included in the covered disabilities. HIV. And at the time, many, quote, Christians believed that HIV was a plague sent from God directly as a punishment upon homosexuals as retribution for their sinful lives. Some circles still believe this. And so because this bill would provide support to one specific group of specific people, one specific group of a specific group of people that they hated with all their zealous fury, they lobbied against the entire bill and sought to remove that care and help from every other person who could need it. That's the American way.
If I may.
How Christian of them.
Go ahead.
Something to growing up in some of those circles, it's their job to offer support, and so the government should not, and they will oppose whenever the government would try to step in.
Yeah, then like start. I don't know. Like you don't represent this group, but okay, then start providing some fucking support instead of your bigoted nonsense. But whatever.
We can dream.
I guess I'm not quite done with the drama around this literally only entirely good bill. As the bill stalled on the Hill, a disability activist group called the American Disabled for Accessible Public Transit organized a march from the White House to the Capitol on March 12th called Wheels of Justice. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
This in its own right is impressive, as organizing a large-scale demonstration for the disabled is hard now, today, because of accessibility issues, let alone back in 1990 before the ADA was signed. As they made it to the steps of the Capitol building, 60 or so protesters left their mobility aids behind as they literally crawled up the 365 steps, carrying scrolls with them that had the opening words of the Declaration of Independence, screaming and chanting the entire way.
That's so
Based.
cool.
Unfathomably based.
Yeah.
Truly.
This even like learning about it and seeing pictures of it, like this shit moved me so deeply. I think this particularly metal demonstration highlights something that I think about a lot. For a group of people that is often infantilized because of the mistake between disability and incapability, there is particular poetic beauty in making the world, which would dare to call you ugly and an unsightly object and pervert to avert eyes and look away, watch as you interface with a structure that is supposed to represent you, yet is not made for you in any way, and screaming after climbing that hill, which it wasn't believed you could, that you want your representation not later, but right now.
It's metal as fuck.
That shit fucks.
Yeah. Goes hard.
Yeah.
That's
The
my
Americans with Disabilities
community.
Act. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. It's fucking awesome. And that's why I said, like, there was crawling involved so we could walk, and I wasn't trying to make an off-color joke.
Quite literally.
We crawled and died for this. Like, the Americans with Disabilities Act would be signed 3 months and 14 days later on July 26th. So what did it do? The ADA guaranteed a significant portion of civil liberties and protections for disabled individuals, and in general was a huge victory in disabled representation. There is a list of covered disabilities which specifically exclude antisocial ones like kleptomania or pyromania. This is done to prevent an abuse of these protections from them. Like, just seems like an odd ad, but I mean, I kind of get it.
I guess it had to be done legally, right?
Yeah. Sexuality is also not included in that list of disabilities. I don't know if it was once, but it's not now. But gender dysphoria was specifically added in 2022, so gender affirmation is also promised by this act. And I think that rules. More specifically, the ADA imposes restrictions on ableist discrimination in a bunch of forums, namely employment and housing, as well as accessibility requirements to help less mobile people participate in society through ramps, handrails, closer parking spaces, lifts, elevators, other niceties that, I'll be real, just like fucking help everyone. This bill also established a groundwork for civil cases against employers, housing providers, and other institutions for disabled people to posit their grievances for discrimination against them, which created a method of accountability for any of these establishments if they chose to disobey the act. Unfortunately, for the next 17 years, there is an extensive history of technicalities and government bullshit that I'm just not going to bore you with, that would lend the legal system to support. Well, not that it's boring, but it's just these differences and technicalities that were utilized and leveraged are so like small scale and minute and annoying that like it could be an episode on its own on how people were like avoiding this act. Anyway, this lended the legal system to support an approach to such cases that spent more time attempting to determine if the plaintiff was disabled enough to impose the ADA protections on the defendant, and would never even reach the discussion on if the defendant had actually discriminated against the plaintiff. So a secondary Americans with Disabilities Act, Amendments Act, or the ADAAA, was passed in 2008 that undid some Supreme Court rulings and expanded some definitions, but that was the last major thing that happened in this long history lesson. Sorry, I know I've been talking for a second. So that brings me to the two lovely people we have here with us today. I think that when the discussion of disability is present, or the idea of disability is represented in media, like I've mentioned earlier, what people often default to is someone who uses mobility aids or in some ways externally identifiable to their disability. So I have Wynn, the visible one, here for you to meet, who ticks that box. But it's also important to express, and as many disability activists would underscore, so I'm doing that, that many disabilities are less visible, if in any way at all. And so I have a longtime friend of the podcast and first guest speaker for us, our first guest speaker ever back to express their life with a debilitating condition that you wouldn't otherwise be aware of. So we'll start with Wim. The floor is yours. What's some information about you? What do you like to do?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Who am I?
How did you get here?
It's a big
Where did I
question.
go? Hi. I'm Wynn. Some of the things that I really identify and I enjoy. I just got a tattoo. Where am I? I thought I was supposed to be visible. Hollow Knight.
Sick. Nice.
Can't,
A gamer.
Very nice.
Yes, I attempt to be a gamer. I really enjoy gaming. I have 2 dogs that are mine. They're somewhere in the back there, chilling, hopefully. And I have been a dog trainer for well over a decade now. I'm old. That's kind of what I do, who I am.
And if you'd like to share your conditions and how they affect your life?
Yeah. So I have a few things. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. So, like was brought up a little bit earlier up in the episode, I have the same condition as one of the actors from The Good Place. My collagen is too stretchy. And so my joints fall out of place. My blood vessels are stretchy. I pass out. Good stuff. And I am also autistic.
And well, I was about to ask how these things affect like your enjoyment of your hobbies. Obviously, one of these is going to make you a better gamer.
Don't put that out there. You're spreading a false narrative.
Or really like trains, maybe. I'm not helping.
You're not helping. But no, again, these are tropes that we're here to combat.
And I was intentionally bringing those up for you to shoot down.
Sure,
Right,
sure about
buddy.
that. But no, I've had to adapt over the years. When I first started my career as dog trainer, I needed a service dog. I was much more mobile than I am now. I've learned to adapt over time. To some extent, I now work through a consultation method where I'm not as much hands-on with the dog so that I'm able to take care of my body, combat fatigue and joint dislocations and things like that. It does not, in fact, make me a better gamer, though.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you've mentioned that, like, just playing a game or playing cards, like these things, they make your joints hurt, like your hands, they like your thumbs dislocate. Like that's the level of like gooiness that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Wynn's been close with me for years, so like I've seen these things firsthand. I don't think you're giving enough. Like I know it's well. I think it's that's something to highlight. Like this is normal life for you. Like this is just what living is like. But no, it's not normal to like your hands to fall apart after playing like for like an hour on a gamepad. Like that's fucked up.
Yeah, I've had to move away from some hobbies like ballad songs. I can't hold them for more than a minute or two without ouching pretty hard.
Yeah. And I've tried to have you try like lighter ones, like really light ones made of plastic, and see if that helps. And I mean, like it did a little bit, but like yeah, it's still time is limited with it.
Yeah.
How of the policies? I mean, we've discussed it a little bit, but like we didn't get the chance to talk about the ADA. So how has the ADA benefited you?
I have some hypothetical ways that it's supposed to have benefited me, and then some more material ways.
Sure.
In the more material ways, like the ADA is the main law that protects service animals and mobility devices out in public. So my need to have a medical alert dog in the grocery store where it's no pets allowed, in the movie theater, any areas that you wouldn't expect to see a dog, that's where I really benefit a lot from the ADA. It offers very broad coverage. Businesses can ask me the 2 questions that are easy to answer. My dog has behaved well. Life is good. The areas that it's supposed to offer more protection that I've seen it kind of fall apart is especially in employment. So I am usually very upfront with people, employers in job interviews, that I have disabilities, how those might affect me, the need for a service animal and mobility device, which is not required of me. The law allows me to not disclose that because discrimination is still rampant and they understand that. But I have been fired immediately after getting hired because the person interviewing me and the manager didn't discuss. I've been told that I couldn't have my service animal because of a manager change, and that caused me to have a concussion. And all of these things, I should be able to go back and sue, but there is not a lot of opportunities for that, and there's been a lot of cases in the past where they want you to show that, no, you are disabled beyond a shadow of a doubt, and it's going to take years, and it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of lawyers, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah. How have gaps in these programs and policies failed you, and like what forms of discrimination do you still face today? I'll try to refrain from getting angry about the ones that I've witnessed directly.
And I probably won't bring them up. Some of it's so second nature. I'm used to like being ready to fight anytime I walk into a business with my service animal. If somebody stops me at the door, I'm like, I have 2 questions that I can answer for you. I'm ready to move on with my life. I want to get some milk. Like, I shouldn't have to fight that hard. It really should be simple. I have had a previous service dog get attacked on duty. The ADA does not cover dogs that are out of control. And yet I've lost out on a highly trained service animal because someone brought their animal into that space and attacked mine. Like I discussed with employment, like that's been the most rampant one that I've seen. Medical discrimination, people don't know what they're talking about. And are not willing to hear you out as soon as you have a mental disability or you know too much about what you're talking about.
Or you present femme.
Yeah,
Or
I
you're
do present
black.
femme.
Or
Yep.
yeah. Sorry, that one doesn't apply to you, but like, yeah. No,
a whole number of things.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to take like too much of this onto mine, but I think that these kinds of discriminations and these traumas, they pass secondarily to people that are around you and close to you. Like that kind of on your feet preparation to fight. You did it all for yourself, and I like as you requested. But I was like also always ready to like go pick a fight with some dumbass old lady who's like, "You're not allowed to have a dog in here." Bitch, who are you? But yeah, like it's fucking never ending. And I think you mentioned that you didn't want to talk about each one, and that's because it's secondary. It is secondary nature, and that shit's fucking stupid. Like just human dog, mind your own business. Like I don't know what else to say. And what unintentional ways do these programs that are supposed to support you, do they have blind spots for a modern life experience?
Yeah, I think the big one that I do have some prompts, which are very helpful to me, that is kind of mentioned is like insurance and forced poverty. So I have Medicaid because through all of the clinicians and all of the medical needs that I have, I would never be able to pay for that, even if I had $1 million salary. But to qualify for Medicaid, you cannot make a penny over a certain like percentage of the poverty line, and it's not very much to live on. And so you kind of always have to live in fear that, oh, I'm going to make a penny over this month through no fault of my own, or man, I don't have a lot of supports if, my disabilities get too bad. I've been trying to get SSI for the last, what year is it? 8 years. Like we've not really kept up. the line doesn't change very much in comparison to inflation. It's still a challenge. Like these HMOs are what they're called, the management organizations for Medicaid. They still make massive profits. And they do that by denying healthcare at every single turn, even though it should all be covered.
I think these last points are really important, because something I've noticed as an adult is that like America just likes to pretend that all problems are solved because we gave ground on these issues like once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just because we have the ADA doesn't mean ableism is just solved and gone away. The ADA, like the Rehab Act before it, are good steps in like the right direction. But as far as societal attention and support goes, it leaves people behind still. And the people it does help, it could do more damage than it should, like force them to just fucking stay poor forever, or even just like hold them back. If the American dream is to use these systems that we have in place to then give yourself a leg up to then succeed and be successful, then why is that not possible? Pretty basic shit, it seems to me.
Yeah.
People with less obvious disabilities are one of the groups that can get left behind. Will, you had a whole episode to talk about being our resident drug doer, but what else do you enjoy doing?
Well, other than doing a whole bunch of psychedelic drugs, I make knives. That's my main shtick and my main thing that I do. I am a knife maker, specifically balisongs. But I also am a moped mechanic. I have a moped gang in my hometown with my friends where we all fix vintage European 50cc two-stroke bikes and modify the hell out of them and ride them around in like a big angry swarm of hornets. Or
They have their
really
own cuts
small-
too.
We do, yes. We have our own. There's a whole
It's
little
as adorably
subculture.
dorky as it sounds. Yeah.
I'm wearing my rally shirt right now. We are
Let's
called
go.
the Goat Heads. But yeah, I'm a creative, mechanical, I don't know, person who likes to make stuff. And yeah, I like just looking at me, and if you have met me before in real life, you would probably not think that I am a disabled person because I appear pretty regular. Like if you meet me and interact with me and talk to me, I look like a fairly just whatever average person. But I'm sick as fuck, like all the time,
Yeah.
in more than one way. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, sick
yeah.
as fuck in every way.
if you would like to share your conditions and how they affect your life.
Yeah, so actually I have an interesting mix of, like we were talking, or like you were saying earlier, Stephen, it can happen to anyone at any time. Like you get hit by a truck. I have been hit by a truck. I have been run over by a truck. That is part of why I'm disabled. But that's just like one of several things that went into it. I have Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. I have been given both of those diagnoses at points. With Crohn's being the more recent one and the more likely one. They're, for all intents and purposes, very similar conditions and are treated basically the exact same. So one of them is just much more systemic. Crohn's applies to your whole body. Ulcerative colitis is confined to your colon, typically speaking. They are both forms of inflammatory bowel disease. So that's the main thing I struggle with. But I also I got Lyme disease when I was a kid. I spent the first chunk of my life in New England as a child, and I got a deer tick bite in Rhode Island in the early 2000s, and I got the very classic bullseye bite on my stomach. It was like a big red bullseye, basically, where the tick bit me. And I had Lyme. I found I had Lyme, and I had to be treated for that at 8 years old. So I think that Lyme helped contribute to me getting Crohn's disease. Although I do have a slight genetic predisposition for it. My grandmother has ulcerative colitis as well. But yeah, so I've got inflammatory bowel disease. I had Lyme disease as a kid, and I got run the fuck over by an ice delivery truck when I was 13. And that fucked me up pretty good too. But still, all of that, none of that left me visibly disabled. I don't need a mobility aid. Again, I can walk and move my body in a pretty normal fashion other than getting more fatigued than the average person. Yeah, it's very weird. It's weird to like appear decent looking and seeming and then really be struggling with a lot internally and trying to not like let onto that all the time, basically. Because if I acted how I felt all the time, like no one would want to be around me. I'd be miserable.
Yeah. How have the policies I've discussed? I mean, we talked about 504, but have you experienced any benefits from the ADA?
Oh, 100%. I currently live off of Social Security disability income. I have been on federal disability since 2021 or 2022. Sorry. Yeah, so I get money from the Fed every month because I am too sick to work and make a living wage for myself otherwise. And also, my healthcare comes directly from the federal government and my state government. I rely on Medicaid and Medicare to get me my prohibitively expensive medication that I need every month, and without which I'd be fucked. I take a biologic injection that costs $80,000 a syringe, and I take that every 4 weeks.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, and I require federal subsidized healthcare to get that. Like, I couldn't afford privatized healthcare. Like, I just couldn't. I don't make enough money to pay for my own health insurance. So I rely on state and federal subsidies and programs to help me live my life.
I think, not to like cause dumb crab barrel infighting, but the fact that Will has SSI.
Sorry, I do have to make the difference. SSDI, which is different than SSI. They are separate programs.
Oh, okay, I see. But I mean, the fact that you have that kind of support and you're not visibly disabled, and Wynn doesn't have that kind of support and is it's just like, what are we doing here? Not saying you shouldn't have it, but like, you both need this.
Well, and specifically with that, like, it was a very, very interesting stroke of like horrible luck and also great luck, because everything that I like at the time that I applied for disability in 2021, I think is when I started. I was in the hospital when I started applying. I was on death's door basically when I applied for disability. And I think that's a large reason of why I ended up getting it at the time that I did, was the fact that within the checklist for, like, within the DSM, basically, like, you know, Social Security has like a checklist, like, from the DSM that's like, here's all the things that you could have if you have X condition as it is listed. And if you hit all those check marks, you're probably more likely to get disability, basically. So at the time that I applied, I was literally like dying, and I hit every single check mark for inflammatory bowel disease, whether it was Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. I basically was like, I have all this shit. All of it's happening to me right now. I might not survive it. Help. And I ended up getting it it took a really long time. It took like, I haven't been trying for years like Wynn has, but it took many, I think about 8 months, but back and forth between Social Security, where they kept sending me letters and calling me and being like, we need more evidence, we need more blah, blah, blah. And I had eventually ended up printing out my entire medical history. It was like 300 pages. It was like a ream of paper, and I mailed that to them. I like put it in their Dropbox. I took it to the like Social Security Dropbox and dropped that whole fucking thing in there and was like, here's my entire fucking medical record. Look at it. Tape
that to the gallon of blood you shit out that week.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Just mail that to them.
Yeah, soaked in blood. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like these programs and policies have worked really well for you, but like, are there any gaps that like have still failed you? Or like, what forms of discrimination
definitely
societally do you face?
Well, societally, much less, because again, I am visibly normal. I don't want to use the term normal, but I visibly, there's nothing out of the ordinary with me. So I have not really faced much discrimination in that regard, but I've definitely faced like institutional discrimination, mostly having to do with like schools or workplaces where I have to disappear a lot of the time. I'm horribly sick to my stomach like 80% of the time. And sometimes it's too much. I can't stand up. I can't like think straight. I can't do anything except curl up in a ball on the ground and kind of die. So there have been moments where like I will have to take myself out of a situation randomly or suddenly and kind of disappear from something, and having to like come back from that and having people be like, where did you go? Like, why did you leave? What's wrong? And having to explain like, well, I don't really want to tell you what's wrong. I just had to leave. Like, I'm sorry that it's impacting this thing we're doing right now, but it's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, like, when we hung out when I was there, like, you would just be gone. But I'm not a fucking. I have experience. I'm very equipped. I feel like I'm pretty equipped for this kind of stuff. And like, you would be gone and like, oh, that's right. Yeah, Will has a condition. And then you just come back, and I don't think I interrogated you once.
No, you didn't.
Okay, yeah.
No.
Yeah, but like, that shit does have to suck with people who are less equipped to prepare with chronic illness. Like, yeah, I could see, like, hey, dude, why do you like disappear like for a couple hours when we're in the middle of something?
Right?
Like, yeah, like, that can't be fun or enjoyable to experience.
Well, and like Wynn was saying, it's the sort of thing where you just, as a disabled person, you forget that you are doing all of this work mentally, like, and all these weird gymnastics where you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that I was having to contain this part of myself, like, because I'm just so used to doing it that, like, when someone else brings it up, it's like, oh yeah, and like disabled people have to, whatever it is, like, hide this thing or whatever it is, and I'm like, oh shit, that's right, I do that. I just don't even think about it because it's just part of my life.
Is the right term, like, would you still call that masking in a way, Wynn?
Yeah. I mean, you're having to conceal something for either your own benefit, like survival, or for other people's comfort.
And personally, it's often other people's comfort because I'm a very anxious person, and I often wonder or worry about how other people are perceiving me and thinking about me and everything like that.
Well, I think you're a cool dude.
Thanks.
In like, are there any unintentional ways these programs may have like failed you that Wynn didn't mention before?
Well, I mean, Wynn's the biggest point that they brought up was the insurance thing and the cost, and the fact that, like, the reason that I specifically didn't apply for SSI at the time that I was applying was because I owned a business. I was a business owner. And I had enough assets in my business and like inventory and stuff that I literally could not apply for SSI unless I like either just completely lied about everything that I owned, or I liquidated all of my liquid assets, like, and sold all of my tools and my livelihood, essentially. Like, I would have had to get rid of my entire livelihood just to legally apply for SSI, to not have the like things that they say you can't have. Because that's the thing with SSI is you can't have shit. You can't have savings. You can't own anything.
Like, why? Sorry.
Yeah.
Why, if we want to hide behind the idea that these people are leeching off of a welfare society, do we make them do that? Why, and I'm not saying that you would be, but like, why do we make you give everything away and have nothing and no way to ever get out of this if we want to provide support to you? It should be supplemental. Like,
exactly.
It literally benefits everybody to just do it that way. But what do I know?
Right. Yeah, but largely just like insurance, like I was saying, with the medication and insurance and everything. Like, I'm in this weird position where, like, you know, I work part-time. I have a part-time job. I have not engaged in my business, my actual business, my knife making business in like years now. I just have not, like, I haven't had the energy. I haven't had the time. I haven't had the money. I just have not been able to get back at it, largely because of my disability. It's been very hard to adjust to. Sorry, but I went off on a tangent again and stopped talking about the ways that the government actually has or hasn't benefited me. It's largely just cost. Like, cost. Cost is the main thing for, I think, any disabled person within the world, but specifically within the U.S., just trying to deal with the money and the health and how to juggle all of those things together.
Just to live.
Just to live is what I'm talking. Yeah, just to survive, just to have access to my medication. I would go bankrupt if I had to buy my medication out of pocket. I'd either die or be in debt. I'm already in debt for the rest of my life, but even more debt. Like, you know.
Yeah. I think we've reached this guided discussion section. Where we're like the floor kind of opens up a little bit more. But I think invisible disabilities are often ignored or just kind of forgotten about in discussions like this. And that's like a secondary forgetting about. Like, we forget about disabled people, And then we forget about people that it's not obvious they're disabled. It's something I think I've taken significant effort to include in this discussion. And I'm curious, like, how does that make you both feel? Because Wynn has less visible disabilities, and Will is a good representation of this issue. But does this feel invalidating when you think of yourself as a disabled person, but like you aren't in the picture?
Totally, for me.
Like
yeah.
you're not that person in the wheelchair.
It's for me personally, as someone who has. Sorry, I don't want to. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. Just to clarify, like the person in the wheelchair in the picture in the thing where you're supposed to go, that's a disabled person. Like you're not that.
No,
that's what I meant to say.
I'm not. No.
Yeah.
But I also don't. I mean, it's weird to think about the fact that I am part of this minority population. Like I'm a disabled person. But people like wouldn't think of me that way. And I want them to, because it's part of who I am. It's like, it's a really integral part of who I am and like what has shaped my identity and my worldview and everything. Like, it's part of me. That my disability is part of me. And it feels very strange to have such an integral part of me be something that someone wouldn't have any idea about unless they like really asked me specifically. And they wouldn't just be able to look at me and be like, oh, they deal with that. Which is sometimes good. Like I guess mostly good, but also makes me feel weird for being like, yes, I'm a disabled person, even though I look and walk and act whatever, I still am. It feels weird to claim that title sometimes personally.
Sure. Win.
I kind of flip-flop because I have some invisible disabilities. On a really good day where I'm not using mobility aids, you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell unless you know exactly what you're looking for. Both visible and invisible disabilities have some pro-con analysis to be done. I mean, the ability to kind of blend into a crowd and not stick out in unsafe places is nice. But it also means that you're not always being asked about the support and the accommodations you might need. People don't always think about like, hey, are you fatiguing really fast? Do you need to take a break? And I kind of think of disability is defined in the ADA as having an impact to one or more activities of daily living. If that is you, claim that shit. Like, the more people that can kind of stand up and be like, hey, I need these supports, is the more people that are on our side making the world better, whether you look like you need it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think that kind of reminds me of something that I said in my FDR episode, where the second one, where I think the disabled people that I know that I was referencing were you two, that like FDR pushed himself so far beyond how he ever should have, and that ultimately fucking killed him. Like, that people who are disabled almost have this propensity to, probably because I'm not going to try to speak for you, but from my experience and hearing about it, it's feel like you're missing out on abled life, so you push yourself beyond what you're supposed to in a way that causes long-term damage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly where I'm going with that, but here's your opportunity to support my narrative.
Well, I do. Go ahead, Wynn. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I think for me that is coming into clearer focus. I recently got diagnosed with ME/CFS, so chronic fatigue that gets worse the more you push. And I am prone to pushing past my limits because there's more to do. There's more life to be living, and if I can just push past, then I can get to it. And ultimately that has fucked me over, and I know that it doesn't set a good example for the disabled people around me or the people that I interact with might meet next that can't do that or are unwilling to do that, rightfully so. So yeah, there's your agreeing with your narrative.
I think that people, at least in my experience, are
Oh shit, Jett's here.
talking about this kind of stuff a little bit more. It reminded me of the train in Seattle, and I know Steven will probably remember this because we were calling the train in Seattle based because the intercom tells you to like give up your seat for people who might need it because of a disability, right? And then it goes, remember, not all disabilities are visible.
Yeah.
And we were sitting on the
Oh,
train
yeah.
going to a concert, I think, and we were like, that's a base train.
Yeah, no. And that light rail's good. I took Will, just kidding, I took Wynn on it when we were going to Caravan Palace. And we flipped the seat up, and Wynn was using their wheelchair, and like it was a chill time. And I was like, all right, this is rocks. This elevator, good shit.
Oh yeah.
I think an obvious portion of my narrative, especially toward this point, is that I don't think that what we have now is good enough. And that's easy for me to say as an able person because it's like, I don't have that much skin in that game. What do you guys think about that? Like, what more do you think you would like to see?
I think just representation in general is great. Like, and especially drawing attention to specifically invisible disabilities or lesser known like disabilities. Like I have a few friends personally who have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but like that one, as far as things go, I think is much less heard of in the general like health sphere, and a whole bunch of other stuff that people would just like forget about or don't even know about really. Like if I tell people I have Crohn's disease, even though my first diagnosis was ulcerative colitis, because more people just know what Crohn's is.
Mm-hmm.
And even then they don't even really know what that is or what that means. Like, and then I have to kind of explain what that actually is and how it affects me. But I think just generally, yeah, the more that anyone can feel comfortable seeing themselves represented in any kind of media, being like, oh, there are people out there like me. Like, yeah, it's really important. It makes all the difference in the world. Like, to weird little anxious disabled kids like myself.
Sure.
I guess I have somewhat more of a threatening take on it. Disability is the minority that you can join at any time. And I mean that as a threat.
And we'll make you join it.
That's right. But no, people will turn away. And like when these kind of conversations get brought up, the narrative I run into is, thank God that's not me. But what if it was? Like, I think if we started to shift how people view things, like not only kids that are coming up disabled, people that become disabled over time, elderly folks, like all of these populations would be better served if everyone can see that, hey, this shit affects me too. Like, disabled people shouldn't be living in poverty. You shouldn't have to give up your livelihood and everything you own to be able to get support from the government. Like, what is government there for? If it's not to help people.
Jett just said, who knows?
Well, I think we could define that. Like, that's these conversations.
Speaking of government, recent legislation has had me worried for both of your lives. Significantly, deeply. Sleep lost. Do we think that this damage is irreparable?
You mean at the systemic level? Like just everything that the current admin has done and is doing to disable everything that we have currently?
And how, like, socially we allowed this to happen?
Oh God, the social aspect I think will take a longer time to heal than the government aspect, honestly, which is saying something because government does not move fast.
I agree.
But yeah, I'm serious. I think that the social damage that just in general that this administration has brought about, it's gonna last for a really long fucking time. I think minority groups of all kinds will be dealing with fallout from the shit that was emboldened during the last however many fucking years it's been. Yeah, I think I think it'll take a long time for this country to come back around or even be around in a way that it was before with disabled folks, with most minority folks. Yeah.
I think 2020 is kind of what, in my mind, set off the kind of like trajectory that we're on for disabled and a lot of minority folks is, we need the economy to get moving, and so disabled and elderly people are going to die. Like, tough.
Yeah.
And that has just kept going.
Yeah.
And that alone, I agree, is going to take a long fucking time to repair. And I don't know.
The president said he wanted us dead.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah.
he wants disabled people just to die off. Like, wouldn't it be easier if we all just died off?
It was not subtle. Yeah. They said the quiet part out loud. And I don't know.
And that shit gets to you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I don't think we're going to be able to, like, get past this if we don't have a pretty dramatic movement again. Like, the Capitol crawl is what I keep coming back to. Like, people literally crawling up the steps and occupying buildings. They started with juice boxes of like, oh, it's cute that disabled people are sitting here. And then they got mad and got the police to try and throw them out. Just being mad online isn't going to help. We need movements. People need to see us. And until that happens, I don't think we're going to fix any of this.
Yeah, I think direct action is very applicable to specifically fighting for rights, just in any way, but specifically, when it comes to this kind of stuff. Also, with disabled folks, like, there's the uncomfortable aspect of it, right? Where, like, when the institution, like the government or the police or whatever, or just the general populace, has to confront the fact that we live here, we're Americans too. Like, you're gonna have to see us. We're not gonna fucking go anywhere. Like, and they get uncomfortable when they see someone who's not like them. That's a large part of it. But also just being reminded of, like, hey, like, we have the right to live just like you.
Well, and I think we're a stark reminder that people can become like us. Like, an accident can happen at any moment. And people don't like to think about that. Shit's rough for disabled people, and people, I think, in the back of their mind know that. And it's easier if you don't see us.
Well, and I mean, I think everyone should have it more in their head that even for all intents and purposes, it is like, it will be part of your life. Like, almost certainly, at some point, everyone will become disabled. That's part of aging. Your body breaks down. Like, we will all reach a point in our lives where major functions of our body will start shutting down. Yeah. And, some lucky few will make it out without that ever happening, but it's a very, very small percentage. So that's just something to, like, keep in mind. It can happen at any moment. Like, again, I got run the fuck over by an ice truck when I was 13 years old, and it fucked me up. Like, I still deal with horrible pain from that accident. I've had multiple surgeries to deal with the fallout from that accident. Like,
all of us here have suffered a serious medical injury. Everyone here has been under the knife for something like that. Like, I blew up my leg. Jett lost his ACL.
I also blew up my leg.
Jett also blew up his leg. I've got, like, plates and screws in my shit. Like, I'm a bona fide cyborg.
Yeah.
Jett has dead person knee now.
Same.
Is it dead people knee?
Oh yeah, no, I have a graft from my hamstring in my knee.
Oh, cool. No, I don't have that.
So Will's part dead person.
I just have dead nerves in my knee.
Jett has a flip-flopped hamstring. Wynn's had multiple surgeries. Like, yeah, it's sorry not to expose your medical information.
That's what I'm here for, I guess.
Like, yeah, it's we're like. And I experience permanent repercussions from this. Like, my body is different now, and that's how it is. And I'll be real, it sucks sometimes, but I like it. Like, I don't know why, but I think our medical progress in repairing us in this way is I like it a lot. Not to fetishize my own injury, but, like, I think it's cool. And I think that people who have the ability to get put back together that way is cool. I always thought Jett's surgery was cool growing. I'm sure it didn't feel cool. It doesn't. But like it's cool to be done now. Like cool scars, cool story. I don't know what else to say. But like that shit is permanent, and like now I just can't move my leg in a certain way. And I feel my tendons get caught on my plates, and like that's just how it is. And that's okay. But I know it's gonna get worse as I get older.
Well, in that similar vein, like I'm grateful for my ridiculously overpriced medication. Like it's keeping me alive and not rotting from the inside out. So it's pretty cool that we have, modern medicine in a lot of ways. Like I would have died basically had I gone through what I went through in like the 1980s, I would have died. I wouldn't have survived. Yeah.
I think something that often gets brought up in discussions, especially regarding state-sponsored welfare, is bad actors, as if they're like a scourge that like you're trying to like a group of nefarious evil people trying to take advantage of the goodwill of the American spirit.
Yeah, those millions of fraudsters who happen to get on disability because it's so easy to do.
Piece of
we've
cake.
learned today, it's simple. Yeah. Obviously, I don't think they're prevalent enough to be concerned. But I've certainly seen some, like I've seen a couple. I've interacted with a few people that shouldn't be on these programs and know it, and they take advantage of them. The difference is I don't fucking think that means we should take these opportunities away from everyone else just because every once in a while someone slips through and they're a dickhead, because that person is just going to be a dickhead, and they are. Yep. That's it. As two people who I'd say would be negatively impacted by this behavior specifically, what do you guys think we should do or say or think about these kinds of people? I mean, Wynn has a service dog. I don't know. Will's probably got something to say.
Yeah, I mean, you should go ahead, Wynn, especially having a service dog. And
I think that's less a part of what I have to say. My thought process is very much like I would rather err on the side of more people getting support versus less. With how hard the gauntlet is, the few people that slip through, I don't actually give a fuck. Because, you risk, it's like a sieve. The more open the holes are, the more people can get through and can get support. Also, the more likely bad actors get through. And I would rather more people be able to get the support than closing those holes and making it harder for people to gain access to desperately needed support, in some cases to not fucking die.
Sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like accessibility should be the main like focal point. That's the whole thing. I also don't give a shit if there's going to be a few like bad actors who slip through. There always will be, no matter what kind of institution or thing you're running. There will always be disingenuous people trying to game the system. That's just human nature. But no, trying to take away accessibility for everyone, like it's not. No, it's going to make everything worse. We need everything to be more accessible to anybody who needs these programs and everything. For instance, at the time that I applied to disability, I was way too fucked up to do it. My mother and my partner like basically filled out my paperwork for me because I was kind of like dying in a hospital bed and couldn't think. And if I had to do that alone, if I didn't have like familial support and like a loving relationship to depend on, who knows what would happen. And that's the case for so many people, is that they're on their own trying to deal with this. And I'm sorry, I totally went off the path from bad actors. But I don't know. I think I think as a disabled person, the times in my life that I've encountered folks who I think are either embellishing or lying about having a condition, it's very obvious. Because the people that I know who have those conditions that I've heard other people lie or embellish about don't talk about them like that. They don't use them as excuses. It's not something that anyone who actually has to deal with the stuff that you're pretending you're dealing with in that moment would do. It's just like you can see right through it. It's very obvious.
I think a portion of my question was like intersocially, like as just a normal person, when you see someone who has a really fucking misbehaved yappy bitch dog that like has a ill-fitting service dog vest on it. Like I know we all roll our eyes like that guy's dumb, but like
I'd call him out for that.
What are some important? I would love to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, I'm asking, like, what are some important ways that we should think about interactions like that you think that maybe the common person like isn't equipped to handle emotionally, or like on a grand scale of how this applies to other people who do need their service dogs?
Even having a service animal and having had the experience of having my dog retire because of an attack, I still try to err on the side of like, that might still be a disabled person and they might still need a service dog and have no idea how to access it. They don't. I'd rather presume ignorance versus malice. I don't agree with, like, there's a trend of fake spotting online where you take videos, you put your own dog in danger to take videos of these bad actors. It's stupid. I think that is incredibly foolish. I would rather, like, on the more societal level, like the bigger government level, let's build in some support to lessen the likelihood. People don't know how to access service dogs. There's a lot of scam sites. Those should be outlawed. That kind of thing versus the individual, like, I'm calling out another potentially disabled person for their lack of knowledge. I don't like that.
I mean, the system should be innocent until proven guilty of like fraud, right? And it sounds like it's kind of the other way around. So I think we ought to provide other people with the treatment of innocent until proven guilty as well.
In a social setting, I think the court of public opinion is stupid, but yeah, I would much prefer that we take people at innocent intention than to always. I think it also is partially the American way to assume everyone's trying to fucking get one over on you. We're very self-obsessed. What do you guys think that able people can do just to help both socially and like personally? Or what are some things that able people think that they should do but shouldn't do? I think I've lost track of the plot as far as like how that works, because I think I've been helping the way that I can in a way that's appreciated for so long that I don't remember what it was like to not know people who are critically disabled.
Well,
so what do you guys think?
I mean, to walk back something I just said, I take back that I would like to, call someone out in public like that. I would always like to give the presumption of not.
This is
innocence,
growth,
but. Well, I also like to say shit like that, where in reality I'm a socially anxious person a lot of the time and would not call anybody out for much of anything unless it was really egregious, But also, like, who am I to fucking know if that person is actually disabled or not? I don't know. I don't know. You should, which is the point I was getting at. Just as a general person, a general non-disabled person, just believe what disabled people have to say about what they're going through.
That's a really good point.
That's a big thing that I have faced a lot of trouble with in my life, because again, I don't look like I'm sick all the time, and so I can show up to a place and be like, I'm sorry, I'm several hours late, I'm actively in a ton of pain and kind of dying, and people look at me like, sure, whatever, and I'm like, no, I'm like serious, like I'm like at like an 8 out of 10 right now on the pain scale. I can barely hold eye contact with you. I need you to acknowledge this and realize that I'm doing really poorly. And they're like, okay. Sure.
I need to apologize now. Because when we got tattoos together, you tanked that shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck?
That's just, he was like, that's just chronic pain.
Yeah. It was like, it was like on your ankle. I was squirming like a little bitch the whole time. And you just took it. And I was like, all right, buddy. Pain mog me. Why don't you? Wynn?
Yeah. I definitely second, like, believe disabled people. As somebody that uses mobility aids and a service dog, I run into more of the, like, don't fucking touch me. Consent is a thing. People trying to move me out of the way in my chair. People trying to touch my service dog. People trying to open doors and then they're standing in the door, which means that I would have to go underneath them or touch them in any way. I'm just like, please stop, and then they get angry at me for asking them to not do those things, because that's their act of charity for the day. That's not cool. Always ask what's going to be helpful to people. Don't assume another wheelchair user might actually really appreciate going underneath your arm where I don't. It functionally all comes down to believe disabled people actually listen to the words leaving our mouths.
And also just trying to be like, I don't know, like for some reason, like when people learn that you have a disability or something specific, like a lot of decorum just goes out the window. Like a lot of their general, how they would treat, again, a regular, like quote unquote normal person, like kind of flies out the window, and they're like, oh, there's something fucking wrong with you. Let me ask you incredibly invasive questions about it. Or like automatically assume that I know something about you just because you said you have this condition that I know nothing about. Like, dude, I've said to people before that, like, I met one of my neighbors the other day, like over my wall. Like I got a phone call from someone. They're like, I think I found your cat's collar. And she walked over and she had my little cat's collar that came off in her yard. And she was talking to me over my garden wall. And she was like, yeah, I'm a registered nurse, and just like talking about life, and asked what I would do. And I was like, oh, I'm partially disabled. I have Crohn's disease. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like I was a nurse for 20 years, and like, oh my God, I'd rather have cancer than Crohn's. And I was like, don't fucking say that to me.
What the
Like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
I'd literally rather kill myself, dude. What the
That's
fuck?
basically, yeah, she was like, I'd rather kill myself than, I'd rather have a thing that could get treated or kill me than live with what you deal with. And it's like, wow, that was so nice of you to say to me at 9 a.m. over my garden wall. Like, what the fuck?
Yep.
What a way to start the day.
all
What
of
the
the-
fuck?
All of the, like, I would kill myself. And it's like, well,
Yeah,
I don't think you would.
I've gotten that response so many times.
It's shockingly common. Part of me wants to come up with excuses of like, well, I tried and I failed, so. You probably
Here
would
we
too.
are.
Having this fucking conversation. This makes me want to kill myself more than my disability. Fuck
More,
you.
yeah, talking to you right now.
If I don't have the grit, neither do you.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the balls.
But yeah, I don't know. I think people just get weird. Like, people just lose their sense of whatever normalcy that they retain for like regular interaction with someone. That just like goes out the window. They're like, oh, there's something wrong with you, so it's okay to talk about. It's okay to like focus on that and have that be a central part of what you are and who you are, is just this thing that's wrong with you. And it kind of like, I don't know, the second that you tell someone you're disabled, that becomes like the forefront of you in that person's head. That's like the number one label that gets slapped on top of everything else. Like, oh, they are whatever, but they are disabled first.
Yep.
Yeah.
No one sees me for the boss-ass gamer I am.
I know that's an interesting point, because when I think of you guys, like you're some of my best friends, but you're also disabled, and in order to help be like supportive to you, I do think about that. But I don't know what the difference is so nuanced, I think. 'Cause I don't even know how to describe how that's different than what you just said.
Well,
But you guys don't feel like I do that, right?
No, not in the same way that
Just
like.
gotta make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's different when it comes to like friends and people that you trust, because you can joke about it. Humor is an aspect of it. Like, if I wasn't a sarcastic person, like I would lose my mind. I need humor to cope with the fact that I'm fucked up all the time. Yeah, I don't know. I think when there's that personal relationship, it changes it a lot. It's very different than an interaction with a person who knows nothing about me and is just assuming things about me. You know things about me, so like, more nuance is given to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also, like, I don't know, there's instances where I feel like we've had conversations where I'm like, hey, Steven, like, you said X, Y, or Z. Can I tell you why that makes me feel this way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wynn?
I agree. Like the personal connection and where you're at in a relationship makes a lot of difference. A stranger coming up to me when I'm getting milk and grilling me about invasive medical history will never be welcome. Somebody that's close to me that wants to make sure that I can access a space asking for what my accommodations needs is different. Is it, am I a spectacle to you, or am I a whole human that you're trying to support? There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yeah. So like instead of like everyone's at a group and you're being introduced to a new person for the first time, like, yeah, this is Wynn. They're broken.
Yeah, fucking don't do that.
Number one thing. Yeah.
See, I introduce myself like that, but again, it's the humor.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think we fixed ableism.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Do you guys want to let's do? We have two people. So, Will, where can people find you, and what would you like to shout out?
Yeah, you can find me at Benson Blades on Instagram, or www.bensonblades.com if you want to look at my knives. I have not been making many knives as of late because I am disabled and struggling to get back into my shop and make cool stuff again. But I will. I'll get there. Slowly getting there. Yeah, if you want to learn about ridiculous mopeds, go to mopedarmy.com and look up the goat heads. That's me and my friends. That's our moped gang. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of my shtick. Knives and tiny motorized vehicles, and yeah.
Wynn, do you have any resource suggestions or?
Yeah. I mean, I could give it an Instagram if any service dog questions come up. That's kind of my wheelhouse. You can find me at Wynn_dependence on Instagram. And I'm happy to answer questions and offer whatever resources I can.
Same here. Like, even if you reach out to me through my knife page, I will happily talk about disability and being a disabled person. I'm always happy to talk about that.
And we're Koolaid Stand. You can find us at Koolaid_Stand_podcast on Instagram. You can find us at Koolaid Stand on Spotify and YouTube. We have both audio and video on both. You can close your eyes or be blind and just get audio. And if you don't, Wynn's gonna make you disabled.
I'm ready.
And if they don't, I will.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that would be a horrible lead piping. So watch out. Anyway, would you guys like to say see ya?
See ya.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Jett, are you recording? Do you gotta do the show?
Yeah, I'm recording.
All right, and he's not touching
I
anything.
got you
Excellent.
covered.
All right.
I've been trying to figure out how I want to intro this episode. I think I got it. It's gonna be the normal one.
Cool.
Unless Wynn and Will, if you guys want to do the intro.
Hello. Would you like some
I mean,
Kool-Aid?
If clap sync in 3, 2, 1. Okay, go ahead, Will.
What's my line?
Welcome back to Koolaid Stand. I'm Will Benson.
Thank you.